Well, hello, everyone. Welcome and/or welcome back. My name is Tommy Hensel, and I am the director of the Fine and Performing Arts Center at Moraine Valley Community College. Moraine Valley is located in Palos Hills, Illinois. It's a southwest suburb of Chicago. As with every theater in the world lately, we have been closed for almost 5 months now, and we're not going to be doing any performances until January at this point. So we were trying to figure out ways that we could continue to reach out to you and provide you some content and some entertainment while we weren't able to do something on our stages. So we came up with this idea of meeting artists. So we've gone back and looked at some of our favorite performers that have been on our stages in the past maybe 2 to 3 seasons. And I reached out to a number of them and asked them if they would be willing to come chat with me for a while. So it's just friends having a conversation. But hopefully when you watch these, you'll learn something new about these artists, something that you didn't know. You might learn new things about me because apparently I'm forthcoming when they ask me questions too. But our idea is just to keep you happy and engaged and give you something fun to do on a Tuesday night. We stream every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time on both Facebook and YouTube. And then once we're done, the videos then stay on our YouTube channel. So you're able to actually go back and watch the videos anytime that you want. So tonight, I am thrilled to bring a wonderful couple to our studio, 2 of my favorite performers in the greater Chicagoland, Northern Illinois region. Please welcome to our broadcast studio, Jodi Beach and Jim McDowell.
Hi.
Hello.
There you are. Hey, good to see you both. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, thanks for inviting us. We missed you.
Nowhere else on a Tuesday night but here.
Well, thank you. I so appreciate that. And anybody who's watching, feel free to type into the comments. And I'm trying to pay as much attention as possible to the comments so that if I see something that's a good question that I can feed to Jodi and Jim, I'll click on it so that we can all see it. So please feel free to say hi and tell us who you are and where you're from. And I'll try to keep an eye on both. I have to put on the dorky reading glasses to do that. So
it's a great prop.
I'm flying blind. I left mine upstairs.
Well, the glass of wine that I always have on this broadcast tends to help a little bit. There you go. So I'm calling in from Berwyn. So where are you joining us from tonight?
We are in Rockford, Illinois, at the top of Illinois, Wisconsin.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say for people who don't know geography in Illinois, that it's the almost Wisconsin part of Illinois.
It's just a couple little tiny cities that were all connected, and then you hit Beloit, Wisconsin.
Yeah, when you take 90 out to go to the Dells just before you get to Wisconsin, here we are.
Right. And you know the Rockford area. It's funny. I had never been there until I went to a meditation retreat that was in Pecatonica, and I had to drive. I was driving near Rockford, but one of the other meditators, the first time I did this retreat, was flying in from the West Coast and needed somebody to pick them up from the bus terminal in Rockford because they flew to O'Hare and took the bus to Rockford. So I had a chance to drive into the city, and I was early, so I had a chance to sort of drive around and see the town. It's really beautiful up there.
It is. It's a nice place. Did you get all the way downtown?
Yes, I did. And I kind of got out of my car and walked around. It was really lovely. And one of the things that I do every year is, or not every year, but many years, is I review grants for the Illinois Arts Council. And there's a couple of different organizations in Rockford that always apply for grants. So I learn a lot about how much art you have going on up there.
And we appreciate the Illinois Arts Council.
We have a lot of art and a lot of good restaurants, Tommy. So come up anytime.
You got to review our downtown restaurants. I think they're award winning.
Honestly, once we get a little further through this phase thing that we're in and it's safer to come out to restaurants, I'll take you up on that. For those who don't know who are watching the broadcast, I have a side gig as a restaurant critic, mainly in the Chicago area. So I write for a website called yourchicagoguide.com. And so and they follow me on Facebook, so they know about my restaurant review. So, we were talking, I mentioned the fact that there's a lot of performance going on in Rockford. Now, so are either of you from there originally, or is this somehow where you've settled?
Both.
Yeah, both of us.
Both.
Oh, wow.
We've been a lot of other places, but I have to say, Jodi, because Jodi will ask me to say it at some point in time or another, I tell everybody that Rockford is a great place to live because it's keenly triangulated. Within a 2-hour radius, we have downtown Chicago, downtown Milwaukee, Madison, Wisconsin, Quad Cities, Mississippi River, Great Lakes, and the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin. So, and our cost of living's not bad. So, and we got great restaurants.
Yep. And actually, you know, I always think about you when I drive to Galena, because I'm driving past all the exits to Rockford as I'm headed over towards, you know, Peoria and that part of this, not Peoria. What's right over the border from Galena? Dubuque. To see my friends in Dubuque. So you're both originally from Rockford, and I know you've been married now for how long?
4 years and 8 months. I think 9 months.
Oh, you're counting. Yeah. So how long did you know each other before you got married?
Well, I think we'd been a couple for 13 years by the time we got to the wedding, but because we started dating around 2002 in there, but we met in 97 doing Peter Pan at an equity theater downtown Rockford called New American Theater. And he was the bass player, and I was brought in to be the piano conductor. I wasn't the music director, but the music director who had rehearsed everybody couldn't do the shows.
Tells me the night before opening night he's not going to be there. And I said, what? And he goes, oh, this girl, and he goes, Jodi Beach. And I go, I never heard of her. And he goes, you'll love her. She's great. She's fabulous. And I was scared to death. And she comes in, and we were pirates on the wheelhouse of a pirate ship. And
at the top of a ladder.
Very rickety, curved stairs that went up to the wheelhouse with just enough room for, you know, 2 people, and there's 4 of us up there. And I helped her up the stairs, and I was scared to death she was going to blow the show. And she had a little itty bitty 4-inch black and white monitor to see the visual cues, and she nailed the show. And we've been together ever since.
That's awesome. I think all of us who have done musical theater have had to do Peter Pan at least once.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We did it 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, I stage managed it once. That was the one. Never want to stage manage a show with that many children.
Was it real children or grown-ups dressed as children?
No, good. That would have been way better for me.
Yeah.
So
I can handle children. I can handle flying, but when I have to fly children, I don't want to do it.
Oh, that was the most terrifying part for me as a stage manager, is the first rehearsal where we had to fly Wendy, Michael, and John. I was okay with Peter Pan because she was a friend of mine and she was an adult. But the littlest kid, John, I was totally freaking out. Like, there's this like 6-year-old or 5-year-old kid or however old he was. But yeah, it's fun. You know, it's one of those things. It's a rite of passage in the theater, I think, to have to do something with kids, something with flying and flying kids. You know, there you go. So you've been watching a lot of these Tuesday night performance or interviews. So one of the things, you know, is I do have only like one standard question that I like to ask everybody. So I'm going to ask both of you. I'm always interested with performers, how it started for you when you were a kid. Was it something that you've been doing like ever since you were like a little tiny kid, or is it something that came along later? So Jodi, let's start with you. How did it start for you?
Well, my mom says that I came into the world singing and have been singing ever since. And I always wanted to play the piano. I have an older sister who was taking piano lessons in our home. And my parents tell me these stories because I was too young to really remember. But apparently when the piano teacher would leave, I would just go up and I would bang at the piano, and I wanted to play. And when I was 5, they started me in piano lessons, and I've always loved to play, and I always sang. So, and they were never separated for me. I always played and sang at the same time. And growing up too, as a person of faith in a church, churches love to get kids singing. And so that was great because there were a lot of opportunities in my church for me to play the piano and to sing and be involved in all sorts of little theatrical stuff. And then my parents got me involved in children's music theater at the college in town when I was in 3rd grade. And I've been doing theater ever since. And so there really wasn't a time in my life. Music has been my life since I was born. That's
awesome. And it's great that your parents really supported you by taking you and putting you in those classes and putting you in those productions. That makes such a huge difference for you. If anybody's out there is a parent with kids and they want to be a musician, support them, please. I know it's tough.
And
it's not
musical too, which is nice.
Yeah, we have that in common, and I think it's very fortunate. My mother was a bass player, played charter member of the Rockford Symphony, started in 1936. And so I tell everybody I don't thank her, but I blame her for this because the first 9 months of my life, my head was up against the shoulder of that bass while she was playing symphony concerts. So I really don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. But to put it in a nutshell, this is where I started right here. With my sisters, when I was maybe 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old, my sister's big fat knitting needles. I found them. She left them laying around the living room, and I picked them up, and I found some pots and pans. Literally, you hear the stories about, playing the pots and pans. I played the pots and pans and bent her knitting needles into oblivion, and I got in big trouble for that. Yeah. But this is a funny story, and I think people go through it. It's short. But my mother hands me a pair of drumsticks, and she goes, "Here, play with these. They were your grandfather's. He was a drummer in the Klan." Well, at 2 years old, you don't think anything of that. You get a little older, you start thinking, drummer in the Klan? That's pretty racist, man. What's going on? My grandfather was a drummer in the Klan. And then I found pictures of him in his kilt with his drum. He was a drummer in the Clan McDougal.
Oh, so actually that's hysterical because my Scottish ancestors were all McDougals. So, yes. Yep, they settled in the mountains of North Carolina. But yeah, I'm a McDougal from way back.
Well, then we're family then.
Yes.
We're probably related, Well, everybody in the South is related, we've decided. So,
Well, and Klansmanship is family is who you say they are. So at our wedding, at our reception, I got up and because we had 2 receptions. Our wedding night, we had a small reception of close friends and family and people. And I got up and I announced that everybody was now in the Klan. Your family. That's it. So
Yep. It's kind of like, I always say in the theater world and in the performing arts world, it's like a tribe too. It's like finding your tribe. It's your clan. It's your people,
Yeah.
Your people. And like you, Jodi, I started in church choir as a little kid. That was my, I think I was probably singing around the house. And my mother just figured, okay, if he's going to do it, we might as well put him in the choir. So I think it was the 3rd grade that you were allowed to be in the choir for the first time in my church. So, 7 or 8 years old at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, we had choir for every age group. And they did a cool thing with the high schoolers. I'm so thankful for when I grew up because we had this fabulous youth group and the church was a great place. And they wanted all the kids to do the same thing together. So they kind of made it so you had to, because everybody went to church and then everybody went out for lunch and then everybody went to youth choir. And if you weren't in youth choir, then there was part of that day that you weren't with your friends. So that's how we tricked all the boys to sing. Everybody stayed and then everybody went to Sunday night church. And then there was a youth thing after that. And if you weren't in church, you weren't allowed to go. So basically from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night on Sunday, the youth group was together and it was so fun and everybody sang and we went on big choir tours and saw the world and it was so fun.
That's cool. And that was in Rockford?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, one of the things I'm always interested in is once people have been bitten by the bug as a child and, your music is something that you're passionate about. Did you end up studying that? Did you go on to get degrees in it or study it?
I did. He knows everything. So.
Yeah. Well, no, I did. We talk about parents and fortunate to have parents that appreciate the talents of being a musician. I've played every kind of music there is, and I've studied every kind of music there is, and taught every kind of music there is. But my mother, being the classical bassist, wanted me to pursue that, and I was good at it, and I enjoyed it. I played in every symphony in the Midwest for several years. But one of the neat things of the 1960s, the 50s and 60s, was that players from the Chicago Symphony would come out in the summer and play in the summer orchestra out here. And so she gets to meet all of the guys from the bass section of Chicago Symphony. I mean, they become friends. I still have letters that they would correspond. And Warren Benfield, who was in the Chicago Symphony, principal at one time, and then in the section until he retired, one of the best teachers in the world, taught at Northwestern and at Loyola. And she hooked me up with Warren Benfield. And I studied with him for several years. And he got me into all the gigs and the auditions and playing the circuit around the Midwest. And that's, I went to Northern Illinois University and studied there and dropped out. I got a gig in Evanston. I got an apartment and a gig in Evanston, and I said, "Well, man, why am I living in DeKalb? I could live in Evanston." Silly me.
And I studied. My degree is in vocal performance, with a minor in music theater from Judson University in Elgin. And then the only thing that we have in common in our education is I also went to Northern Illinois for grad school and dropped out because.
You dropouts.
But they wanted me to sing opera, and I love opera, but it's not who I am, and it wasn't what I was going to do. And you have to do that when you're in your undergrad, and I'm thankful because I learned so much. But then when I got to grad school and they were only going to let me sing opera, I just left after a semester. I loved the people, but I was like, I can't spend another 3 years studying something I'm never gonna ever do. That's not where I'm gonna go.
Yeah, because for me, my undergraduate degree was in voice as well, and of course, it's all classical. And when I saw sort of the trajectory, the same as you, I'm like, I'm never going to do this. This is not me. It's not my what they call your fach in singing. It's just not where my voice is. And so I got my master's degree in theater instead and focused on directing because I'm like, okay, that's something a marketable skill that I can add into what I'm doing already, and I love it. So but I had felt the same thing. I'm like, I can't spend 3 or 4 years beating my head against the wall doing something that I don't truly love, And
the funny thing is, though, she goes to NIU and they want her to sing opera. Well, I don't know who was missing the boat because NIU's had a fabulous jazz program since the 1970s. And they missed the boat on having her singing with the band,
But maybe if I would have stuck around. But I was literally there for one semester and went, I'm just done. I'm done with this.
Yep. My friend Valerie is here in the chat. She and I went to Florida State together. And she said, same at Florida State. She was also in the music program at Florida State as I was. So it's great school, fabulous music program. But I just didn't want to go on and try to do opera. Not my thing. Musical theater.
What town is that in?
Tallahassee.
Tallahassee, okay.
But I teach voice now and piano as part of all the music stuff that we do. And it's a policy of mine that I will teach anybody to sing whatever they want to sing. Mm-hmm. And with my kids that are, I think are headed toward college, I do try to encourage them to do some art song because otherwise it's going to get thrown in their face and scare them later. Yeah. But, I want them to sing. So if they want to sing jazz, if they want to sing rock, if they want to sing music theater, we'll work on those things and apply the good technique to those things.
Yeah. I think I was lucky because I had a voice teacher like you who she made me sing those Italian art songs because she knew I was going to go to a music program, but she let me sing a lot of musical theater and, some standards that I really wanted to sing as long as I did those technique things, the German and the Italian art songs. So I get it. It's awesome. So you, during this last few months when we haven't been able to do a lot of in-person stuff, have you been able to find a way to teach online with your students? Or are you still seeing them?
Quite a few of them, not all of them. But I would say maybe half of my students stayed with me. The interesting thing is during this time, I've picked up 3 new students that started because I was online. So it has balanced out and it's really nice. I mean, most of them are FaceTime, some are Zoom, some are Facebook Messenger, whatever method that you like, we'll put it on the computer and do it.
Some are out of state. Yeah. You couldn't teach them in person.
Yeah. And and honestly, I have to say, I know a lot of music teachers have been having issues because some instruments are really next to impossible to teach virtually, but voice, I've been working with a vocal coach myself, and we obviously had to morph into online stuff, and it actually worked super well.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to, she didn't have to be at the same piano every time. She could be somewhere else. As long as she had access to a piano and I had access to play the files that she sent me, it was awesome. So
yeah. I couldn't. I couldn't teach the bass, I don't think, virtually, or it would be quite a challenge because a big part of the teaching style on the upright bass is very interactive. A lot of times it's I grab the bass, I do this, I hand it back to you, you do it. I grab it from you, I do it. It's right there, face to face, this fast. And I don't know how I could do that virtually. Fortunately, I don't teach much anymore, so I didn't take a pinch on that.
So I want to ask you about the group that you tour with right now is the Jodi Beach Trio. So yes. I would love to know sort of the genesis of that. How did that come about? Where did it start? And where do you see it going?
Well, it started in kind of a fun and unusual way. It was not planned, so to speak. We've spoken that I'm classically trained. Always loved to sing jazz and music theater, but classically trained as a piano player. And I was playing in a worship band with some people that were in a big band in Rockford called the Moonlight Jazz Orchestra. Mm-hmm. And their piano player was gone for one night, and they asked me if I would come and sub. And as you read music, well, the jazz charts aren't music. I don't know what they are. They're just like
no, they aren't.
On the page. And so the guy handed me some of this music, and I said, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what it is. And I remember this guitar player, he was so sweet. He said, having you there playing something is better than having nobody there playing nothing. Because it was that night. And I was like, okay, I didn't even have a keyboard. And this is the really funny thing, because the drummer at the time, he said, you should really buy a keyboard. And I put my little nose up in the air and said, I'm a piano player. I will never need a keyboard. I have like 9 of them now. We just go angry. But that night, they borrowed a keyboard from the church. And I was mortified because there's like no notes on this page, except most of the songs had like those couple measures of the Count Basie notes that were really important. Well, I nailed all those because that's music. So the band thought I was fabulous because I played the part that they needed to hear, even though I was horrified the rest of the night because I didn't know what was going on. Well, they invited me to join the band, which was my just education in jazz piano. And all I ever wanted to do when I was little was sing with the Moonlight Jazz Orchestra. And they didn't have a singer. So everybody in the band that could sing got to sing. So during the couple years I was with them, I began to sing more and more, which is what I really wanted to do. Well, skip ahead. And my dad is a local politician, and he was going to have his annual fundraiser and said, why don't you bring the rhythm section from your band and just play? So I asked the guys, and they're like, sure. So we sat, and people just loved it. And they said, you should do this all the time. And so we said, well, okay. So we got together and put together some charts that, I thought were really cool. Looking back, they were mostly just music theater pieces. I don't know what I was doing, but I just dove in. And the first year we were called Trio Blue, but nobody knew who that was. And so the drummer said, we should just be the Jodi Beach Trio. And the next year, and then it just kind of took off. And there was a beautiful resort in Rockford called Cliff Breakers that hired us to play every single Friday night in their Martini Lounge for a couple years. And I think that was really kind of what solidified, and there was a time in Rockford. I know there was a time prior to my lifetime, but there was a time in my lifetime where there were places to play, 3 or 4 nights a week.
7 nights a week.
I keep hearing from the other guys that when I was little.
I played 7 nights a week for years in this town. So
yeah,
not when I was young.
I'm an old guy.
But I mean, there was 4 or 5 years there that we played every single Friday night, every single Saturday night, every other Tuesday night, every other Thursday night, and then concerts on top of that.
That was after I joined the band.
It was, But then we really loved.
Whoop, I lost you there for just a second, Jodi.
Lyrics. Oh,
Hi,
are you
Ken.
back?
Yep, you're
Are we
back. Yep, you're back.
But, you know, I really just didn't want to be background music anymore because the stories behind the songs and the lyrics and the composers is so important to me. So we kind of took a jump several years ago because of Michael Goldberg. If you remember Michael from
Yeah.
the West, he used to be in Rockford presenting at the Coronado Theater. And he said, he took us aside and said, you guys need to go to Arts Midwest if you want to, you know, if you want to get out of the little town and do something else.
Mm-hmm.
So we started going to Arts Midwest and learned so much from so many wonderful people, including you. And it totally has transformed our band and what we do and just the things that we've learned there, just an invaluable education.
Yep. You know, one of the things I love about your show, so for just quickly for people who don't know, about 7 or 8 years ago, I decided to create a series at our theater that I call the Sunday Salon series. So on Sunday afternoons, I usually do maybe 4 of them through a season. I'll bring in a cabaret artist of some kind from the Chicago area or from nearby, and they'll do 2 shows in an afternoon because I can seat 125 people in the space with some tables, so we can sort of mimic what a supper club might have looked like back in the day, or a cabaret club. So there's a 2 o'clock show and a 5:30 show, and we can get about 125 people in each. So I've had a chance to present some wonderful performers in this more intimate setting. And speaking to what you said, is one of the things that I love the most about that style and about your show. You did a Johnny Mercer show for us recently. Is your the stories that you have about the songs themselves and about the lives of the composers are really compelling. And you, unlike some artists who are fantastic performers, but talk too much, you don't. You talk just enough to tell the story without sort of interrupting the flow, if you know what I mean. It's an art. It's really hard to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, making the stories personal, I think, is really key. And we tell this to people all the time, is because Jodi, I mean, look at her, folks. How can you not love this woman? She comes into a town where she knows no one and will walk out of a theater with hundreds of new friends. There's usually a meet and greet after a performance, and
that's our favorite part.
Yeah, and she makes during the show, she makes friends with everyone in the audience, and then the meet and greets are great because then you get to solidify that friendship, and that really is what makes the storytelling connect, is the fact that it's not just here's some stuff you should know. It's I'm talking to you. I'm telling you something that really interests me, and I'm vibrant about it. Now you want to hear the song. So,
Well, and I think I mentioned this when I had Becky Menzie on the show a few weeks ago, and she and I talked about the fact that one of the essences of a good cabaret performance is that the audience feels like the performer is talking to them personally, and they feel like when they leave that they now know this person in some way. They've learned something new, not just about the music or the songs, but about the performers as well.
Well, and it's one of our favorite things is when they come up after the concert, like even at your place also, but we were in Ohio the week before and did our Unforgettable show, and that meet and greet afterwards, I think we were there for almost 2 hours. These little old people, they just lined up to tell me that this was the song that my husband sang to me, and then they would tell me about how their spouse died, and then I would cry with them, and we'd hold them and sing something else. But it's just like kind of a therapy session afterwards.
And I eat a cookie.
Yeah. Everybody wants to hear how the song touches them. And it's just this beautiful sharing of music and art and emotion. And that's what it's all about.
Well, and I think that's the joy of performing the Great American Songbook, is, the audience of people who, were born in the 20s all the way up through the 50s and 60s, grew up with these songs either as part of their life or part of their parents' lives. My parents were married in 1944, and I was born in the 60s, but I grew up in a house where all that music was what was playing because that was their music from the 30s and 40s, So I think it's beautiful. And one of our longtime supporters is in the room tonight, Jean Ronsky. She has never missed a salon performance, so she was there for your show. So thank you, Jean, for supporting us and joining us tonight. So I think it's a great lead-in because there's a video that you sent me, a link to a video that I would love to play for our audience tonight because it is a song from the Great American Songbook. So if you were performing this live in a show, what would you tell us about this song before I play it?
Okay, I love this song. It's one of my dad's favorites, and I don't know a lot about. I think Bobby Troop wrote it, and I don't really know a lot about that person. But as we travel, I get so excited whenever we get on this highway, and I was probably going to give it away, but we've sung this for years and recorded it. In several years ago, we were in Chicago at the Auditorium Theater to see Diana Krall, I think, and we went down early and we parked on this side street, and I can't even make this up. This is the truth. I swear before God. We got out of the car, and right next to the car was the sign that said, "This is the official start of Route 66." And I would never been more excited in my life. So,
yep, and I know exactly where that sign is. Yeah. It's on Adams Street.
I had no idea.
Right near the Art Institute. It's right there.
Yep. We got the parking spot right under it. Yeah. And since then, now we've as we've traveled, whenever I see that I can get on some of the original 66, we'll drive it.
And I get so excited.
And here in Berwyn, it's a big deal because it's Ogden Avenue, and it cuts right through the heart of Berwyn on a diagonal. So there's a huge section of our town that's
on the way to your concert. We found a portion of it and snaked around just to be on.
It's Ogden. Come on, you can't miss it. So I'm gonna do a share screen. It'll take me just a second to get there, but everybody, here is the Jodi Beach Trio. And when was this recorded? It was recently, right? It's a live recording.
Well, I think it was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and we do have one of our sax players with us. So it's Phil Pilcher playing the sax. So it's kind of a quartet in this video. But
here we go. I'm gonna do a share screen. Let's see.
If you ever plan to go west, travel my way, take the highway, that's the best. Get your kicks on Route 66. Well, it winds from Chicago to LA. 2,000 miles all the way. Get your kicks on Route 66. Well, it goes through St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City, it's mighty pretty, you'll see every night. Yeah, like New Mexico, like Arizona, don't forget we're gonna won't you give it to this timeless tune? When you take the California trip, get your kicks on Route 66. Take it away, Phil. The amazing Phil Pilcher. Give your fruits on Route 66. Give your fruits on Route 66. 66.
Jim's still playing.
I know. There we go. Awesome. Loved it.
Thank you. That was fun.
That's such a great song. That's such a great song. I love that. So you have you did a Johnny Mercer show at our space, but you do have a Nat King Cole show, correct?
Yeah, I have a Nat King Cole show that we have never actually performed anywhere in its entirety, but I've got it worked. But I have a show called Unforgettable that kind of encompasses the entire Great American Songbook, in as much as you can do that in 90 minutes. But you know, Nat King Cole is one of my favorites, so I have another show that's just about him that maybe we should debut it at your theater.
Yeah, you know, it's awesome. And we had a really nice comment here. Betty Novak said that she once went downtown so she could drive the whole road all the way to the Pacific.
That's one of my dreams. That's beautiful, Betty. I'm jealous.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My parents in World War II left Rockford. We're going to go to California and get jobs in the aircraft factories. Ha ha. And a lot of stories about that. But they took 66 out there when it was still Route 66. So
wow.
I've got
you know, it's one of those bucket list things. I would love to try it too, just for the heck of it, to see, you know, does it really go through Joplin, Missouri, you know, St. Louis, Amarillo, you know, all those places.
Well, parts of it do. You want a real journey? Try and take Route 20 from Chicago to Rockford.
During construction season or not? Yeah, we used to I lived in New England for 11 years, and we used to joke that, you know, that there really were, you know, only 2 seasons in New England. It was winter and construction were your 2 seasons. So awesome. So besides the Johnny Mercer show and your tribute to the Great American Songbook, what other shows of yours are your favorites? What are the ones that you perform the most when you tour?
We usually tour with Unforgettable. And the interesting thing about that show is it can be a package show. Like if you need, like your place when you need 45 minutes and 2 acts, I've got it that way. But it can also be a lot longer, and it can be modified. If you say, I want the Unforgettable show, but could you highlight more Gershwin? Then we'll do more Gershwin in it. And that's kind of why I named it that. One of the things I learned at Arts Midwest is that most presenters want a package show. They want to know what they're going to get. So, you know, growing up around here, I was used to completely writing a brand new show for everybody that hired us every time. And a couple years at Arts Midwest, people just looked at me like I was crazy. And so started putting together package shows. So Unforgettable is the thing that we tour the most. Skylark is my new favorite. I just have fallen in love with Johnny Mercer. And in fact, my mom was over last night and we were looking at a scrapbook from just 6 years ago. It was 2014. My parents took us to Savannah for a family wedding, and their first home was in Savannah. And we stumbled upon that beautiful cemetery in Savannah. And accidentally, I found Johnny Mercer's family plot. And I was telling my mom last night, we looked at these pictures, and I said, that trip changed my life. Because finding that cemetery and Johnny Mercer's plot and finding all the Johnny Mercer stuff, I came home and rewrote the concert that we were going to do in 2 weeks and made it a Johnny Mercer night. And I remember I said to my best friend, either the audience is going to love this or they're going to hate it. Because it was so different than what we had done before. And everybody loved it. And they said the same thing you did. We love the stories. And so that's when I began to really fine tune the Johnny Mercer show, which is at the moment is my favorite. We have a little Gershwin show called I've Got a Crush on Gershwin, and that's kind of fun. And another show called What a Wonderful World that has all the songs like Route 66, all the places, every song that has a place or a story about a place. And a show called She Sings Sinatra, which, you know, again, one of the things, jokes that we have about Sinatra is when you're playing someplace and someone comes up and says, could you do a Sinatra tune? I always want to say, well, the last 5 tunes were because he sang everything.
Yeah,
he did sing everything.
Yeah,
and he didn't write anything. Come on, they're not really.
I always love the fact that you can play any song and say, oh yeah, Sinatra did that. Didn't you missed it?
Yeah.
And now they're
But you know what?
embarrassed.
It's like throwing darts. You're probably going to hit it more than you're not going to hit it because he did sing pretty much everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Doris Day, you know, she recorded everything. It's like, and Rosemary Clooney, all of them.
And Tony Bennett.
I have down at the studio an archive of vintage sheet music that I'm tens of thousands of pieces of music that I'm trying to sort through and eventually catalog. Right now, I'm just categorizing, and I have folders of Rosemary Clooney recorded it, Doris Day recorded it, Frank Sinatra recorded it, Nat King Cole recorded it.
It's like Christmas down there. It's just all this music. It's so
fantastic.
Fun.
The stuff you don't
God,
really.
I need to come visit you. That's awesome.
Yes, come on out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, you know, as a cabaret singer myself, one of the shows that I kind of started to work on and then I shelved it was a Bing Crosby and Rosemary Clooney show. So, you know, yeah. So I've been researching what did they both sing, but what did they sing together?
Yeah, I'm like, who is your Rosemary Clooney? Because I could be her.
All right, we'll talk. Because I have performed. They did a great duet called "It Happened in Monterey," which I think is just such a fun song. And I've sung that before with a female singer, and it's just delightful to be able to sing those old standards that were duets, like that, because they're fun. They're fun songs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I remember that Rosemary Clooney album where she sang that. She was pregnant when they were doing the photo shoot, and the studio refused to allow her to look like she was pregnant. So if you find the album, she's standing behind this giant stack of suitcases, like leaning over them. It's a great story, but
I think I've seen that picture.
Yeah,
it's a famous album. You know? But yeah, she was really noticeably pregnant, and they're like, "Oh no, you can't have that." So I'm like, okay.
Can't have a woman have a baby.
Yeah.
No, you know, we can't say that. That's strange. So I want to go back a little bit to the Arts Midwest thing. You know, for people who don't know, Arts Midwest is a conference that a lot of us go to, where agents and artists and presenters like me all get together and we sort of look at who we're going to hire for our theaters in the next season. So in your years of going there, and connecting with presenters, where are some of the most fun and interesting places that you've ended up being able to travel that you may not have found otherwise?
Well, your place was fabulous. We loved that.
Well, thank you.
And we really enjoyed our trip to Ohio last fall. It was Ohio State, but it wasn't, I forget the name of the city. It was where that president was from.
William G. Harding.
Yeah, we saw his
from
grave.
Marion, Ohio.
Marion, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, Kansas, Topeka, Kansas. Because then we went to the Rifle and Bible Church and the
Dorothy Wizard of Oz Museum.
The Wizard
that
of
was
Oz
really
Museum.
Cool.
Hey,
we found a bunch of cool stuff
Yes.
out there.
yeah. Or if you're going to go to Topeka, you got to do that. Come on.
Yeah.
It's kind of like driving through the Dakotas and not stopping at Wall Drug, you know?
Yeah.
We were in a small town in northern Minnesota, and he found the Judy Garland Museum. And I think it's Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
Which is not where we performed. We performed like
We were in
45 minutes
Minneapolis.
away. No, we were in Hibbing, I think.
No, that's
Okay.
farther south.
But he detoured so we could, we love the small towns and to find out this cool stuff. But
Yeah, that's the interesting part.
Have you found, like I have in these small towns, that so many of them have these beautiful, like old Orpheum Circuit kind of vaudeville theaters and opera houses that were built in the teens and the 20s, back during the heyday of vaudeville?
I'm fortunate enough, as I said, I'm an old guy, you young kids, but
get off my lawn.
I started playing these houses in the 70s. And so a lot of these classic theaters that are being renovated today, like our Coronado here, and so many of them, the Egyptian in DeKalb, and I'm trying to think of the name of the one in Joliet.
The Rialto.
I was thinking it was the Rialto.
Yeah, the Rialto.
When the plaster was falling off the walls, and the rats were crawling on stage. And I hear they've done a beautiful job with that place, have they?
Oh yeah, it's the backstage is funky because it's so small. It was never designed for big.
Right.
It was but it's it's ornate. It is as ornate as they come, and they did a beautiful job on that renovation. Yeah.
Yeah. I played I did a road show. Oh gosh, back in the 70s with it was called Hastings and Hayes on Love, and it was Catherine Hayes, if you remember her from, was it As the World Turns or General Hospital? I'm sorry, I can't remember. He was Dr. Bob, and she was somebody. I remember her as the empath from the original Star Trek series.
Yeah,
that was Catherine Hayes. We had this little road show called Hastings and Hayes on Love, and they did a bunch of shtick with show tunes about love. And it was me and a guy named Herb Katz playing piano, and we played a lot in the East Coast. And a lot of those old ornate theaters in those days, and that really was interesting to me. I love the history of some of these old theaters; they're fabulous. And then you go,
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say places like we played the Empire Room.
I was just going to say that.
And you go in the dressing room, and here's pictures of the people who have played the Empire Room over the last century. I
couldn't believe that we were in the same dressing room as these people. It's like. This is the coolest thing.
Yeah, one of the things that they kept when they did the renovation on the Rialto is that, like way back, starting in the beginning of the theater, there was this habit of performers to sign the walls backstage into the hallways, going to the dressing rooms and leaving the stage, and they left all of that. So
wow.
Yeah, so you still can like search through and find really interesting things in some of those theaters like that. I was the director of a theater similar to that in New Hampshire for a number of years that had been around for 100 years. So there was some history, underneath the stage and backstage and in the loft and all the places that were still as they were. So when Jim, when did you become part of the Jodi Beach trio?
She loves when I tell this story. I'll make it really short. But as we had mentioned, we met doing Peter Pan in the theater, and she had this trio going on at the time, and the drummer with her at the time and I had known each other since we were kids, and he was playing the show with Peter Pan. He played in her trio. And they had a job coming up, and their regular bass player couldn't make it, so they needed a sub. And Tom, the drummer, says, well, just get Jim to play. He's a good bass player. Get Jim to play. And she wasn't sure about it. And so she finally agreed because he didn't have anybody else. I was like last minute, last resort.
Only because in the show he played an electric bass, and in our band we needed an upright bass. So I didn't know if you.
I went and played this job, which was a whole bunch of really shticky show tunes with nothing but piano music and weird arrangements. And she's playing all of the bass parts with her left hand, which are nothing I would play. and so I did not have an enjoyable time. And she thought I sucked.
I didn't.
Yeah, she really did. She really did. And so it was like a year later, they need another bass player for a sub, and Tom goes, well, why don't you get Jim? She's like, no, he was horrible. You can't get him. He's not going to work out. But, you know, everybody else was out of town. I was it. They were desperate. I was a desperation move. I don't even remember what that job was.
I think it was just Fontini's.
Yeah, just something.
A restaurant.
But I showed up, and in that year's period of time, they managed to clean up their act a little bit. And
a real jazz job.
I actually knew some of the songs, and it went well.
Oh, and he was like phenomenal. I remember saying to the drummer, I'm like, what happened? And he's like, he just had a bad night. You know? And from that point on, he was just with us. And I think it was New Year's Eve 1999 that we made it like an official member. But all of our recordings have been with Jim. And in fact, we've had a couple different drummers on the recordings. But once we started recording, it was all with Jim.
Yeah, I brought that to the party because I've been in the studio since I was a kid. I worked a lot as a session musician in like Geneva and the areas around here. And I started playing with these guys, and I said, why aren't we recording? What's wrong with you guys? And we've been doing it ever since. Now I own a studio, so.
Yeah.
So if people are interested in getting copies of your CDs, I think I've got your website here. Can they go to your website for that?
Yes, they can go to the website. At the moment, getting the CDs, they can find them there, and they can contact me, and we can figure it out. We were going exclusively through CD Baby, and then just like minutes ago, CD Baby stopped doing it. So within a couple of weeks, you'll be able to buy them on the website. But at the moment, you can contact me and buy them through me. I've got a PayPal thing, and I'll send them to you.
Cheaper than CD Baby anyway.
Yeah, but it was strange how that, like, I went to the website last week, and all of a sudden there's like, oh, there is no CD Baby anymore. I went, well, that's nice. So, well,
what happened? Did they just go out of business?
I don't know. I think they probably got morphed into something else, Amazon or something.
Oh, okay.
But yes, all of the CDs are listed on the website, and there's a contact button, and I'll just
available in Japan.
There you go.
We've sold a couple hundred in Japan, so if you Google me, all sorts of weird things come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, as long as you're famous somewhere, come on, we're famous in Japan. Awesome. Yeah. So definitely go to their website to check out the CDs. Because how many do you have right now?
We have 6. 3 of them are jazz, The Very Thought of You, In Other Words, and West of the Moon. We have a Christmas CD that is just very dear to our heart. It's just called Christmas, so that's pretty obvious. And 2 inspirational CDs, one called The Love of God and one called You Are Not Alone.
Awesome. Same musicians on all of these, or do you have various different musicians?
Jim is on all of them.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think
you.
Yeah,
You're on all of them.
and there's, I think, altogether 4 different drummers between all the projects. The last inspirational CD has 3 different drummers on just that project. And a couple different sax players, trombone players, trumpet players, flute, and extraneous percussion stuff, depending on the CD.
Awesome. So Jim, at the studio that you have, are you just using it for yourself, or do you actually like help produce other musicians?
I do very little outside work. It's pretty much private. I've done some projects for other people, pretty much because I've known them and they've asked me to. It just kind of happened. You keep collecting all this gear, and then all of a sudden you're renting a space, and all of a sudden all that gear's in a space, and then all of a sudden you're making records. Never really planned to be a commercial studio, and I don't really think I want that responsibility. But one of the other things I do is I do sequencing and orchestration for Broadway shows. If it's not available through Music Theater International or MT Pit or one of those places, I will do it, properly licensed, of course. All the little lowercase j's are dotted, all you out there who own the intellectual rights. but I do that as well. And I started, you need a studio to do that. You need the recording equipment to be able to produce a full symphonic orchestra for a Sondheim piece. And so I thought, well, let's just keep it going. I don't really want to have to own all the equipment or the insurances or the hassle of stuff not working if somebody's coming in and they're paying me by the hour and it stops working. But sure, it is a nice thing to have for a fun toy.
There you go. Well, and you get some use out of it that's not just for fun. I mean, it's fun, but you get paid for it. So that's
paid for it.
Yeah. Hello. Making a living as a musician is a good thing.
Yeah.
And during COVID, it's a little challenging, but
yeah, I bet it is.
But
you've been doing live concerts though from your living room, correct?
we have been. We've done a couple different jazz concerts, and this coming Sunday will be week 21 of a little something that evolved just called Sunday Night Praise. And we do 1 hour every Sunday night of inspirational music, just try to bring some encouragement to people's hearts. But the first one that we did was right after, it was March 17th, when the panic was around this place. Mm-hmm. And I called the guys in the band and I said, do you want to come over? Because we weren't quarantined yet, but they were saying that the governor was going to quarantine us the following weekend. I said, we should just come over and do something nice for the world. And so all four of our sax player came, and that's when Jim put the light trees out here, and we set up a whole thing out here and did a 90-minute concert from our living room that's now had 7,000 views, which is awesome. But it was just fun. And then that was March. And then in June or May, Jim and I did a May Day concert on May 1st, literally just to try to make some income, with the virtual tip jar thing to see if that would work. And then the band got together at the Nicholas Conservatory, downtown Rockford, in June. And we did a Facebook Live concert down there with the money raised to benefit the Park District.
That was actually, we were supported by the Illinois Arts Council. So
yes,
grant money was allowing that to go on. So thank you, grants.
And then last month we went to two places that we were already booked to do concerts, places that had to cancel their series for obvious reasons. And I called them and said, can we just come and do a Facebook Live in your space? And then you're able to give something to your patrons, and we're able to give something to ours. So that worked at Nicholas Conservatory, which then turned into them calling other people, and they ended up having a series. So that was such a beautiful thing. And then there's a place locally called Concerts on the Creek. Mm-hmm. It's a church that just presents all sorts of kinds of music every Saturday night. And they had canceled their whole year. And I called them and said, hey, could we just come and do a live? You don't have to pay us. We'll do a virtual tip jar. Which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, it depends on who's watching. But we still had a fun night, and we were able to do a whole 90-minute concert from their stage, and they posted it on their Facebook page and we posted it on ours. And, especially the kind of music that we do really reaches a lot of senior citizens, especially. And it's so nice for them. They'll write us and say, oh, thank you for doing this music. And because they don't get to go out. And so
we did an interesting thing. We love the community. We always love to do things for the community. And she mentioned, our music has some depth of age. And early on in this thing in the spring, one lovely day when the apple blossoms were all in the trees, we went to a retirement, just Jodi and I, to a retirement village. And it's a place that's set up with different buildings that go around with a center courtyard. And we went to 4 sides of the building. Everybody had a balcony or a patio. And we put the sound system on a wagon. They had a big wheel cart, rolly cart, put the sound system on a wagon. And we went to the 4 sides of the building and played 20 minutes. Everybody came out on their balconies and their patio. We go to the other side of the building and they played. And then we went to the center courtyard and played for everybody that lives on the inside. And it was just really a fun thing, a fantastic thing to be able to do. This business, there's a lot of people who really think you can get rich and famous and it's all glamour and travel and places, and that's all fun. And we love to travel, and nobody shies away from glamour that much. But it's the things you can do for your community, for the people that might not have any other opportunities that I find the most rewarding. Jodi does. And that's one of the things that this whole shutdown has really brought to mind is, well, what can we do right here in our backyard? What can we go do for these people? And I don't care if I make any money doing it. It's really not about that. It's about bringing something to people who wouldn't have it. And that's one of the things I think we've gained from this.
I agree with you on that. I think that, obviously those of us who work in the performing arts have to be able to make a living. But at the same time, I think that we're being forced to find creative ways to reach out to people. And it's making the art more accessible to people who maybe couldn't afford the ticket to come see you. Even a $25 or $30 ticket is going to be way out of the league for somebody who's struggling with whether they can pay their bills or not. And it's lovely that those people who wouldn't have access otherwise now do. We can find a way. And we ultimately, when we're through this, we can continue to make it a both and situation. I think that's what's going to come out of this. Is it's not going to be let's all go back and do it the way we did it before, because that's not going to happen. It's going to be different. Right.
Well, next week we're doing our first outdoor jazz event at a performing arts center in Monroe, Wisconsin, at their performance, because all the performing arts centers are struggling, and they needed to find a way to do something, but yet be socially distanced. So they're having us come, and we're going to be on the outside stairs of the building, probably a good 50, 60 feet away from anybody. And then they've spray painted the yard, like the lawn, and this is your circle you can sit in. Yeah. And that they said they've got it, and they're not charging. I forget how they're doing it. It's like just obviously it's just general admission kind of thing, because there's no assigned seats. It's bring your own lawn chair and here's your paint.
Yeah, sit in the circle. Sit in the circle. Yeah, they've done that at Millennium Park. They've drawn big circles on the lawn. So
is it working?
Yeah, apparently it is, because you stay in your circle. You're automatically going to be at least 6 feet away from anybody else who's in their circle at the same time. So, got to be creative. So we're just about at the end of our time. One quick question for you: if somebody wants to see any of the videos, especially that video of your first living room concert, can they go to YouTube and look for it there?
They go to our Facebook page.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to put that. Hold on, let me get rid of this and put up.
We should put it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
We didn't think of that.
Well, hey, I could have had a V8. Come on. But yeah, so go to jodibeach.com. Anybody who's interested in viewing any of those videos, they're there.
Well, no, be on our Facebook page. Eventually we'll figure out how to do the YouTube thing.
Soon to be on YouTube.
But they're all on Jodi Beach Trio Facebook page.
So do people have the option of the virtual tip jar still if they see them now, or?
Yeah, because it's on the heading.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's on the heading of the concerts. So all of them. And I just looked the other day because somebody wanted to see one. So I went back to see, and all the way back to March, the videos are all there. Awesome. And if they want to see any of the inspirational ones, those are running on my personal page, just Jodi Beach, which is public to the world. Anybody can go there.
Okay.
So all 20 of those praise nights are there too.
And so does the Jodi Beach Trio have a separate website from jodibeach.com?
No, that is the Jodi Beach. The Jodi Beach Trio is jodibeach.com.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure I had the right information on the screen.
Yeah.
Awesome. So go visit jodibeach.com. Well, great. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight. This was a delightful conversation. And, even though I know people fairly well, sometimes I always learn really new, interesting things about people when I interview them. Because we've never had a chance to sit down and talk about, how did we become musicians and, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you come, you play a gig, everybody's working, you leave. This is nice. Get a little chance to chat. And Tommy, thank you for all you do.
Yes, we appreciate you, and we really do want to show you these fabulous restaurants downtown Rockford.
Yeah.
I am totally serious. Once it's safer for me to drive to Rockford and eat out, I'm in the car because I've been quarantining in this apartment by myself for 138 days. So
Yeah.
I love my apartment. It's beautiful, my lovely yellow kitchen, but I've scrubbed every inch of this apartment more than once in the last 5 months. All right, it's cool. So I'm going to take you out of the streams, but please stick around after the broadcast ends and we have a chance to catch up. I want to thank you again for joining us tonight. So everybody say a nice goodbye to Jodi and Jim, and we'll see you.
Thanks for tuning in.
I wish.
Whoops, sorry, I cut you off. What did you wish, Jodi?
I wish we could hug you all. I miss
Virtual hug.
Yeah.
All right. I'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us tonight. I'm very excited that we've got artists booked now through mid-September, actually. I think I've booked through the 15th of September. If you go to our website, you'll see the next few. I'm kind of parsing them out so that it's a surprise who some of these people are. And I have some pretty interesting people coming in September, because September marks Hispanic Heritage Month. And I really thought it would be nice to reach out to some of my friends who are artists who represent many different Hispanic cultures and bring some of those people in to the broadcast studio. So you'll be seeing some interesting stuff coming up in September. But next week, I'm excited to welcome someone who's a friend of mine, as well as Jodi and Jim's, the amazing Pat Hazel. Pat was one of the original writers for Seinfeld. He's a late night comedian. You've probably seen him on The Tonight Show. And he also wrote an award-winning play called The Wonder Bread Years, which is all about the era that many of us grew up in. So I think Pat will be an amazing interview because he is one of the funniest human beings on the planet, but he's also got a fascinating background and he's just an awesome guy. Following that, we have David Wannen, who is the executive director of the New York Gilbert and Sullivan Players, as well as an amazing singer and actor himself. And then I also have Jessica Deer, who is the artistic director of the Chicago Dance Crash, which is one of the amazing dance companies in Chicago. So we've got a lot of very interesting people coming up for you during the month of August. Oh, and also the 4 singers from an amazing country music group called Farewell Angelina. All 4 of them will be joining us later in August. So please stick with us every Tuesday night at 7. I look forward to seeing everybody again soon, and hopefully you will tune in next week. Thanks, everybody.